There is the path of joy, and there is the path of pleasure. Both attract the soul. Who follows the first comes to good. Who follows pleasure reaches not the end. The two paths lie in front of us. Pondering on them, the wise choose the path of joy. The fool takes the path of pleasure. You have pondered on pleasures, and you have rejected them. You have not accepted that chain of possessions wherewith men bind themselves, and beneath which they sink. There is the path of wisdom, and there is the path of ignorance. They are far apart and lead to different ends. You are a follower of the path of wisdom. Many pleasures tempt you not. Abiding in the midst of ignorance, thinking themselves wise and learned, fools go aimlessly hither and thither, like the blind led by the blind. What lies beyond life shines not to those who are childish, or careless, or deluded by wealth. This is the only world, they say. There is none other. And thus they go from death to death. Not many hear of it, and of those, not many reach it. Wonderful is one who can teach about it, and wise is one who can be taught. Wonderful is one who knows that when taught. One cannot be taught by those who have not reached it, and it cannot be reached by much thinking. The way to truth is through a teacher who has seen it. It is higher than the highest thoughts, in truth, above all thought. This sacred knowledge is not attained by reasoning, but it can be given by a true teacher. As your purpose is steady, you have found them. May I find another pupil like you. I know that treasures pass away, and that the eternal is not reached by the transient. I have thus laid the fire as sacrifice, and by burning in it the transient, I have reached the eternal. Before your eyes have been spread the fulfillment of all desire, the dominion of the world, the eternal reward of ritual, the shore where there is no fear, the greatness of fame and boundless spaces. With strength and wisdom, you have renounced them all. When the wise rest their mind in contemplation on the God beyond time, that invisibly dwells in the mystery of things and in the heart of all, then they rise above pleasures and sorrow. When one has heard and understood, and finding the essence, reaches the inmost, then they find joy in the source of joy. I will tell you the word that all the Vedas glorify, all self-sacrifice expresses, all sacred studies and holy life seek. That word is Om. That word is the everlasting Brahman. That word is the highest end. When that sacred word is known, all longings are fulfilled. It is the supreme means of salvation. It is the help supreme. When that great word is known, one is great in the heaven of Brahman. Atman, the spirit of vision, is never born and never dies. Before that, there was nothing. And that is one forevermore. Never born and eternal, beyond times gone or to come. That does not die when the body dies. If the slayer thinks that they kill, and if the slain thinks they die, neither knows the way of truth. The eternal in us cannot kill. The eternal in us cannot die. Concealed in the heart of all beings is the Atman, the spirit, the self, smaller than the smallest atom, greater than the vast spaces. The one who surrenders their human will leaves sorrows behind and beholds the glory of the Atman by the grace of the Creator. Resting, they wander afar. Sleeping, they go everywhere. Who else but myself can know that God of joy and of sorrows? When the wise realize the omnipresent Spirit, who rests invisible in the visible and permanent in the impermanent, then they go beyond sorrow. Not through much learning is the Atman reached, not through the intellect and sacred teaching. It is reached by the chosen of them, because they choose that. To them, the Atman reveals its glory. Not even through deep knowledge can the Atman be reached, unless evil ways are abandoned, and there is rest in the senses, concentration in the mind, and peace in one's heart. Who knows in truth where it is? The majesty of its power carries away priests and warriors, and death itself is carried away. In the secret high place of the heart, there are two beings who drink the wine of life in the world of truth. Those who know Brahman, those who keep the 5 sacred fires, and those who light the threefold fire, call them light and shade. May we light the sacred fire, the bridge to cross to the other shore, where there is no fear, the supreme, everlasting Spirit. Know the Atman as Lord of a chariot, and the body as the chariot itself. Know that reason is the charioteer, and the mind, indeed, is the reins. The horses, they say, are the senses, and their paths are the object of the senses. When the soul becomes one with the mind and the senses, they are called one who has joys and sorrows. one who has not right understanding, and whose mind is never steady, is not the ruler of their life, like a bad driver with wild horses. But one who has right understanding, and whose mind is ever steady, is the ruler of their life, like a good driver with well-trained horses. One who has not right understanding is careless and never pure, reaches not the end of the journey, but wanders on from death to death. But one who has understanding, is careful and ever pure, reaches the end of the journey, from which they never return. The one whose chariot is driven by reason, who watches and holds the reins of their mind, reaches the end of the journey, the supreme, everlasting spirit. Beyond the senses are the objects, and beyond the objects is the mind. Beyond the mind is pure reason, and beyond reason is the spirit in us all. Beyond the spirit is the spirit of the universe, and beyond is Purusha, the spirit supreme. Nothing is beyond Purusha. It is the end of the path. The light of the Atman, the spirit, is invisible, concealed in all beings. It is seen by the seers of the subtle, when their vision is keen and is clear. The wise should surrender speech in mind, mind in the knowing self, the knowing self in the spirit of the universe, and the spirit of the universe in the spirit of peace. Awake, arise, strive for the highest and be in the light. Sages say the path is narrow and difficult to tread, narrow as the edge of a razor. The Atman is beyond sound and form, without touch and taste and perfume. It is eternal, unchangeable, and without beginning or end. Indeed, above reasoning. When consciousness of the Atman manifests itself, one becomes free from the jaws of death. The wise who can learn and can teach this ancient story find glory in the world of Brahman. One who, filled with devotion, recites this supreme mystery, they prepare in truth for eternity. The senses are outward going. They go to the world of matter outside, not to the spirit within. But a sage who seeks immortality looks within themselves and finds their own truth. The foolish run after outward pleasures and fall into the snares of vast embracing death. But the wise have found immortality and do not seek the eternal in things that pass away. This by which we perceive colours and sounds, perfumes and kisses of love, by which alone we attain knowledge, by which verily we can be conscious of anything. This, in truth, is that. When the wise know that it is through the great and omnipresent Spirit in us that we are conscious in waking or in dreaming, then they go beyond sorrow. When one knows the Atman, the Self, the inner life, who enjoys like a bee the sweetness of the flowers of the senses, the Lord of what was and of what will be, then they go beyond fear. This, in truth, is that. The God of creation, who in the beginning was born from the fire of thought, before the waters were, who appeared in the elements and rests, having entered the heart. This, in truth, is that. The Goddess of infinity, who comes as life power and nature, who was born from the elements and rests, having entered the heart. This, in truth, is that. Agni, the all-knowing god of fire, hidden in the 2 friction fire sticks of the holy sacrifice. There is a seed of life in the womb of a mother, who receives the morning adoration of those who follow the path of light or the path of work. This, in truth, is that. Once the rising sun does come, and into which it sets again, wherein all the gods have their birth, and beyond which no one can go. This, in truth, is that. What is here is also there, and what is there is also here. Who sees the many and not the one wanders on from death to death. Even by the mind, this truth is to be learned. There are not many, but only one. Who sees variety and not the unity wanders on from death to death. The soul dwells within us, a flame the size of a thumb. When it is known as the Lord of the past and the future, then ceases all fear. This, in truth, is that. Like a flame without smoke, the size of a thumb, is the soul, the Lord of the past and the future, the same both today and tomorrow. This, in truth, is that. As water raining on a mountain ridge runs down the rocks on all sides, so one who only sees variety of things runs after them on all sides. But as pure water raining on pure water becomes one and the same, so becomes the soul of the sage who knows. The pure eternal spirit dwells in the castle of 11 gates of the body. By ruling this castle, one is free from sorrows and free from all bondage, and attains liberation. In space, it is the sun, and it is the wind and the sky. At the altar, it is the priest, and the soma wine in the jar. It dwells in all creatures and in gods, in righteousness and in the vast heavens. It is in the earth and the waters and in the rocks of the mountains. It is truth and power. The powers of life adore that God who is in the heart, and it rules the breath of life, breathing in and breathing out. When the ties that bind the spirit to the body are unloosened and the spirit is set free, what remains then? This, in truth, is that. A mortal lives not through that breath that flows in and that flows out. The source of their life is another, and this causes the breath to flow. I will now speak to you of the mystery of the eternal Brahman and of what happens to the soul after death. The soul may go to the womb of a mother and thus obtain a new body. It may even go into trees or plants according to its previous wisdom and work. There is a spirit who is awake in our sleep and creates the wonder of dreams. That is Brahman, the spirit of light, which in truth is called the immortal. All the worlds rest on that spirit, and beyond it, no one can go. This, in truth, is that. As fire, though one, takes new form in all things that burn, the spirit, though one, takes new form in all things that live. It is within all, and is also outside. As the wind, though one, takes new form in whatever it enters, the spirit, though one, takes new form in all things that live. It is within all, and is also outside. As a sun that beholds the world is untouched by earthly impurities, so the spirit that is in all is untouched by external sufferings. There is one ruler, the Spirit, that is in all things, who transforms their own form into many. Only the wise who see it in their souls attain the joy eternal. It is the eternal among things that pass away. Pure consciousness of conscious beings, the one that fulfills the prayers of many. Only the wise who see it in their souls attain the peace eternal. This is that. Thus they realize the ineffable joy supreme. How can this be known? Does it give light, or does it reflect light? There the sun shines not, nor the moon, nor the stars. Lightning shine not there, and much less earthly fire. From its light, all these give light, and its radiance illumines all creation. The tree of eternity has its roots in heaven above, and its branches reach down to earth. It is Brahman, pure spirit, who in truth is called the immortal. All the worlds rest on that spirit, and beyond it, no one can go. This, in truth, is that. The whole universe comes from it, and its life burns through the whole universe. In its power is the majesty of thunder. Those who know it have found immortality. From fear of that, fire burns, and from fear of that, the sun shines. From fear of that, the clouds and the wind and death itself move on their way. if one sees it in this life, before the body passes away, one is free from bondage. But if not, one is born and dies again in new worlds and new creations. Brahman is seen in a pure soul as in a mirror clear, and also in the Creator's heaven as clear as light. But in the land of shades as remembrance of dreams, and in the world of spirits as reflections in trembling waters. When the wise know that the material senses come not from the spirit, and that waking and sleeping belong to their own nature, then they grieve no more. Beyond the senses is the mind, and beyond the mind is reason, its essence. Beyond reason is the spirit in us all, and beyond this is the spirit of the universe, the evolver of all. And beyond is Purusha, all-pervading, beyond definitions. When a mortal knows this, they attain liberation and reach immortality. Its form is not in the field of vision. No one sees it with mortal eyes. It is seen by a pure heart and by a mind and thoughts that are pure. Those who know it attain life immortal. When the five senses and the mind are still, and reason itself rests in silence, then begins the path supreme. This calm steadiness of the senses is called yoga. Then one should become watchful, because yoga comes and goes. Words and thoughts cannot reach it, and it cannot be seen by the eye. How can it then be perceived except by one who says, "It is"? In the faith of "it is," its existence must be perceived, and it must be perceived in its essence. When it is perceived as it is, then shines forth the revelation of its essence. When all desires that cling to the heart are surrendered, then a mortal becomes immortal. And even in this world, they are one with Brahman. When all the ties that bind the heart are unloosened, then a mortal becomes immortal. This is the sacred teaching. A 101 subtle ways come from the heart. One of them rises to the crown of the head. This is the way that leads to immortality. The others lead to different ends. Always dwelling within all beings is the Atman, the Purusha, the Self. A little flame in the heart. Let one with steadiness withdraw it from the body, even as an inner stem is withdrawn from its sheath. Know this pure, immortal light. Know in truth this pure, immortal light. And Nachiketas learnt the supreme wisdom taught by the God of the afterlife. And he learnt the whole teaching of inner union, of yoga. Then he reached Brahman, the Spirit Supreme, and became immortal and pure. So in truth will anyone who knows their Atman, their higher self.